Welcome to the Powerlifting and Power Ballads podcast, where we bring you a weekly dose of powerlifting news, tips, and training advice with a touch of 80s rock ballads. This podcast is presented by Team Roar Powerlifting, your source of the most comprehensive coaching and meet day preparation. Here are your hosts, Josh Rohr and Laura Sturm.
Welcome to episode 84 of the Powerlifting and Power Ballads podcast. I am one of your hosts, Josh Rohr, and the other host, Laura Sturm, is not with us today. She is kayaking the Everglades. But wait, don't leave yet. I know most of you are ready to stop listening at this point because she's not here. We are joined by Sam Calhoun. So, Sam, welcome to the podcast.
Hello, everyone.
So, I didn't say this ahead of time, but you're basically going to be the one that's going to keep this episode together today.
All right. No pressure.
Good luck. So those of you that aren't familiar with Sam, I don't know what rock you've been living under, but she is a 3-time USA Powerlifting National Champion, 2-time world silver medalist, currently holds the 67.5 American record total. And she coaches in person at the Iron Asylum Gym in Virginia, and does online coaching. Is there anything else, Sam, you want to say about yourself? That's
about it. That wraps everything up.
Super humble. Okay, got it. So why I asked you to be on? You posted a post on Instagram, and I will say this: you post a lot of very thought-provoking stuff. And I think let me just say this. I think I obviously follow you and respect you as a lifter, but I find it a unique combination, I guess, of a very elite level lifter that is very, I don't know how to say this, like very kind of in tune with the majority of lifters and able to meet them at that level and help them get better. And I think you post a lot of stuff that puts things in perspective for people. And I don't know, I guess I think that's cool. So,
yeah, it's mainly because I coach in person. And if I was simply an online coach, I probably wouldn't have that perspective, but I have to actually have these conversations in person with clients that I care about.
Yeah. So I'll summarize your post. Why don't we start with this? Where can people follow you on Instagram so they can go read this post for themselves?
Yes, sam.s.calhoun. That's Calhoun.
Okay.
On Instagram.
So perfect. So in summary, and you probably have to fill in the gap here, but in summary, the post is basically saying like a lot of lifters compare themselves to the elite level lifters and get down on themselves for not being at that level or whatever. And I think they're missing, and I guess you kind of said this too, they're missing, I guess, the whole reason, like why they do it in the first place. And, the fact that they're still able to better themselves, but that all gets lost. And I'm not Tom Brady, right? I shouldn't play football because I'm not as good as Tom Brady. When you say it like that, it's like, well, yeah, that's kind of just a ridiculous comparison, but people are doing that in powerlifting. And I think nobody talks about it. And I think, one of the questions you said is like, somewhere in here. So, why do people do that? And, so I'll let you start with your thoughts on that, I guess. Like,
well, it seems like before or after every meet, I have to have these conversations with clients. Either they go into the meet discouraged because they're not at a certain, milestone. And the milestone is never like a self-reflection. It's more like an outward looking at someone else's milestone. So maybe it's like, hey, I started lifting at the same time this person started lifting, but they live two times more than me. Or, my perceived total would not qualify for me for nationals. So why should I even compete? It's just all these reasons like I shouldn't compete because I'm not at the level I want to be at. But like my personal perspective is like competing brings something special out of the person. And it's only through competition that you are able to fully optimize, what you can bring to the table as a lifter. And you can only know that by competing, So that's what all of this come from, is just having those conversations with lifters, making them refocus on why they're competing in the first place. Because at the local level, it's not many head-to-head battles that are going on, unfortunately. Hopefully once the sport grows, then at that level, people can actually compete. But until that happens, the competition is only within.
Yeah. And, I think there should always be that, regardless of what level you get to, there's got to be that competition within to a degree too.
Mhm.
And I think, like you said, it all gets externalized and it's all about comparing, you to somebody else and, me to whatever. And I think there's a lot to be, there's a lot of lessons lost by doing it exclusively that way, I think. So I have so what kind of got this whole thing started on my end is I read this and I was in the midst of getting ready to post a similar, I mean, obviously not articulated as well as you did, but the same concept because, I have a couple lifters on the team too that, they, they aren't as strong as other lifters, but they're still progressing. They're still beating themselves. And to me, like, that's super awesome. Like, I love that.
Right.
But somehow it gets lost or assumed that is not important to me. Like I've actually had, and this is the part that's really making me kind of look in the mirror a little bit is I've had lifters tell me like, I just, I don't think you value me as much as somebody that's competitive. I'm like, oh shit, that is not true. Like that is not
Right.
true at all. So, I think based on all the stuff I'm reading that you're posting, I don't think that's how you feel at all.
Right.
And I think, there needs to be more celebration of individuals getting better and beating themselves and things like that. Truth be told, like, just doing the numbers here, nationals is usually right around 1,000, 1,100
Mhm.
lifters or something like that. There's 20,000 members in USA powerlifting.
Right.
So if you do that math, like if you're, if you even qualify for nationals, like you're in the,
Top 0.5%.
yeah, exactly. And
About 5%, top 5%.
and people, I couldn't do them. I'm glad you did the math there. And there's people that, I've talked to that are, they hit the qualifying total and they're like, well, what's the point of me going? I'm not going to win. I'm like, well, what's the point of you going is you made it. Like
Right.
how many people don't even make it? Like you gotta, and that's okay too. Like, so, and that's the other reality is like, some people never will qualify for nationals. That's just the reality.
Right. And that's
Does
okay.
Does that mean they shouldn't compete or train and get better? No, it doesn't mean that at all.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I get very passionate about this, I guess, because, I want people to love it for the right reasons. And I think so many people just get into that comparison mode and it kind of takes away from what they actually can get out of it for themselves.
Yeah. It's so disheartening because I've never had anyone that came into the gym and never worked out ever and came into the gym solely to do powerlifting. Most people have had gym memberships for years and then they get bored of just, working out for with no purpose. And then they decide to do powerlifting. You know what I mean? They already had a love for fitness and then they decided to do powerlifting. And I just hate that somewhere along the way, they forgot that.
Yeah.
And they put their entire identity into powerlifting, into a sport, because they think that the outcome, the end goal is going to enhance their life in these grand ways. And it's typically, I guess, through recognition is what they're after. Yeah. Right. And I could tell them from my personal experience, there have been times that I've won nationals and walked away feeling empty. You know what I mean? So it's not the outcome that people should be searching for. It's everything in between.
Yeah. Yeah. And I already lost my train of thought here. You said something I was going to comment on and I lost it. Yeah. You're going to have to deal with this the rest of this episode. I'm all over the place. I'm a mess. But so let me ask you this, like, what are the conversations like with your lifters that kind of get into that mindset of comparing themselves? Like, I know I'm kind of asking for some, some sensitive information here probably, but I think it's important for people to know because, or to hear another perspective. And, I guess hear it publicly because a lot of people don't really talk about this.
Right. So one conversation that inspired the post, it wasn't about this particular, it inspired the post. I have to make that known so the person don't feel any type of way.
Yeah.
After the Arnold, she texted me. She said, "Hey, Sam, I just want to have this conversation with you so I know I'm not crazy. I watched the Arnold because she was there in person. I seen these people, these tiny individuals lifting 2 or 3 times what I was lifting, right? I feel as though I need to step away from competing, to build up towards that point." And it's like, it's one thing to have goals, right? We all need to have goals and ambitions, but you never want to walk away from a situation feeling less than.
Right.
And basically that's how I perceive her statement. Is like, I looked at these people and I felt as though I wasn't worthy of competing in the near future. I needed to take some time and get stronger before I competed again, and that's where the conversation of like, you're watching literally the best people in the country. These are the best lifters in the country you're watching. Yeah, they're 2 or 3 times stronger than you. Like, this is the cream of the crop. It's not to say you're not strong. And even in the message, she acknowledged, like, hey, I know I've been gaining a lot of progress, so it's like, yeah, what more do you want?
And celebrate that. Yeah. And that's the part I think that needs celebrated more. And so I'll say this too, like, the to the lifter that inspired that post, like, I've had the same conversation with a lot of lifters, like, you're not the only one that thinks that way sometimes. And I guess, to be blunt, I disagree with that thought process. Like, I think there's a lot more to be gained and a lot more value in exactly what you said, is like your own progress, your own journey, and knowing why you're doing it in the first place. So
for sure. And then I'll have like lifters that they're upset that they're not great at the sport because they love the sport and they spend a lot of time and money in the sport. They feel as though they should be great at the sport. And my question to them is always like, why sport? Like, you could be great at academia, you could be great at philanthropy, you could be great at all these things, but you're choosing and you feel deserving of being great at a sport. Why this? And I tell them, like, I could have chose swimming, I could have chose volleyball, I could have chose any other sport, but I just so happen to choose powerlifting, and I'm just so happen to be good at it.
Well, and I would say, so I would counter that with what defines great? Like, what are you defining as great? Is it qualifying for nationals? Once you do that, you're great enough? Is it top 5 in nationals? Is it winning nationals? Is it breaking an American record? Like, where does it end? Like, if you're always, because let's be honest, if you never in your wildest dreams thought you could qualify for nationals, and all of a sudden, that's your definition of great, and you all of a sudden qualify for nationals, well, now what? Well,
right.
If that's been your mindset, my prediction is you're going to now say, well, yeah, I qualified, but I'm not going to be top 10 in my weight class, so I'm not really great. And right. I think that bar is always going to be moving, and I think that's why it's so important to kind of get out of that mindset now, because it just imagine how non-fulfilling that would be, always living with falling short of the bar that you've set, or that you set, and keep moving.
Exactly. And I was telling one particular lifter on this on Sunday, and I was like, my number one goal was to beat Jen Thompson, right? Because she was and is one of the greatest of all times. And I thought once I achieved that goal, then naturally I would be one of the greatest of all time. I thought my work would have been done. She was solidified for 10 years. I thought I would be solidified for 10 years too. And immediately after I beat her, 2 other people came right up and jumped far in front. You know what I mean? So if I just put my entire identity and self-worth off of just being number one, I'll have a rude awakening right now.
Yeah.
So, and it's like all these things that people say, oh, you're so inspiring. It's like the things that they accept from me, they wouldn't accept from themselves.
Yeah.
I tell them, you go ahead.
No, I was just going to say too, like, well, let's just say, just for sake of argument, what if, what if, what year did you beat Jen?
2018.
2018. So let's
Mhm.
just hypothetically, if you lost to Jen in 2018, you didn't beat her in 2019, there was no nationals in 2020. Well, let's say for 10 years you never beat her, but you continue to get better. You're is that a point where you say, wow, I should have never done this and that was a waste of my time? Hell
No
no.
way. No
Exactly.
way.
So I think that's, that kind of puts it in perspective. Like, you know, and that's, I don't know. I just think that, I don't know. It actually, it breaks my heart, to be honest with you. Cause I know, and for a while I was that way too. Like, so I guess I get it. Like, and you said you were too, like it was all about the outcome. And we've talked about this on this podcast before. Like we get so caught up in the outcome and the comparisons and the results and things like that, that, if you really step back and just realize why you're doing it and realize like how far you come. I think that's the other thing. Like, we can train for a year to put, 5 to 10 kilos on our
Right.
total, and that's a huge victory, right? Some people train for a year and don't total their best total, and that's not
Right.
a bad thing either. Like, sometimes that's the way it goes, and I think that we get just so caught up and the results and all that we miss a big chunk of joy out of the sport, I think.
Yeah.
So,
And it's also sometimes also counterproductive. Like when I first started out, I was so ambitious and I worked very, very hard. And it was detrimental because I just ran myself in the ground. And once I just kind of like accepted where I was and understood it was going to take time, and work, but time, I got a lot better, much faster just
Yeah.
by just relaxing.
Yeah. So what's the answer here? How do we get through to everybody, I guess, that gets into that rut of comparison to others, I guess?
Honestly, I think it just comes with experience and time under the bar. With enough experience, you start to understand what's important and what's not important. And you kind of start to see your trajectory, right, and where you're going to be.
Yeah, and I think so. On that note, I think a lot of people lose sight of. I think, did I already say this? I don't know if I'm repeating myself already or not. I'm a mess. But people, I think, look at where they are and look at people in front of them, but they never look back and see how far they've come.
Exactly.
And I think that's a big problem, for lack of, I don't know how to, I don't use great words, right? So I think just being able to acknowledge how far you've come, like not that doesn't mean settle for how far you've come. That just means like, give yourself a break and a pat on the back every now and then, and congratulate yourself for how hard you've worked and how far you have come.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So anyway.
I try to explain to I have one client, she thought I was disappointed in her because she's busy with work, she's busy with school, she hasn't been able to put 110% in training. And I had to tell her, like, I understand, like you're going to the gym at 9-10 o'clock at night. I respect that because I'm not, like I respect what you're doing. Like I understand, powerlifting can't be your end all be all. You have something that's called life. I understand that. But but every time you do step in the gym, you give it your full effort. And that's what matters.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And that's funny. You well, not funny. It's familiar. I've had a lot of my lifters have, after a meet where they don't have what they consider their best performance, like they literally are like afraid that I'm disappointed and stuff like that. And I'm still struggling with how to deal with that, I guess, because I'm 100% not disappointed. Like, and I've even told people, I've said on this podcast before, like, I'm literally only disappointed if you really just give up on yourself. Like,
Right.
that's the point where, okay, I'm disappointed in that. Am I going to like abandon you at that point? No. Like, so, but we're going to have a heart to heart. Right.
Right. Yeah.
And I've had this conversation over and over, with new lifters that, go 3 for 9 or bomb out or whatever in their second meet. And they're like, well, I should have done better than that. And I've had this conversation with, lifters that have gone to worlds and won, but didn't hit PRs. Like
Right.
it's
Yeah.
like,
yeah.
it's like, well, what I guess that's the part I'm, as a coach, I'm trying to figure out. We're still learning too, right? We don't know everything.
Oh yeah. And that's why I raised the question, because I'm like, well, I'm like, people, you tell me, like, am I missing something? Am I out of touch? You know what I mean? Like, you tell me, because I want to be understanding, right?
Yeah.
To be able to meet the client where they are and not just be dismissive and say like, get over it type of, attitude. Because I don't know, I'm not in their shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably one of my flaws is like, that's where I go is I'm like, no, of course you're doing awesome. Like you're doing great. Like you're crazy. You don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
So I probably do that too much because I think like I am seeing the bigger picture. I'm seeing how far they came and I guess maybe I just do a poor job of like explaining that back to them and letting them see the big picture. So maybe that's the answer for me, I guess. I'll have to reflect on that more. But yeah, I think, it's a tough conversation too, because when, let's be honest, training's not easy. If you're putting time and work and effort into it, it's not easy. And, if you don't hit a goal or you don't hit your, what you thought you were going to hit, like it does sometimes, I understand, like I do understand the unfulfillment or not, that's not even the right word, not reaching what you really thought you were capable of, but that doesn't mean you're not capable of it, I guess.
Right. And that's a different conversation, unfulfillment, disappointment, all that is different than feeling a negative connotation towards yourself. I could have a bad training session I could be pissed off about, but I'm not thinking like I suck.
Yeah.
Today's training sucked.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I think yes, exactly. I think that's that's an interesting like point of emphasis there. Like, yeah, you can have a shitty workout, right? That doesn't mean you're all of a sudden a shitty lifter.
Right.
And I think people think that way. Like, they might be training, and I've seen it happen where, somebody has like 2 months of just really good training and all of a sudden they have one bad workout. They're like, oh, I suck. Might as well quit lifting. And I'm saying it sarcastically, but they're saying it dead serious.
Exactly.
And it's like, well, if you had 2 months of really terrible training and I had one great workout, would you say, oh man, things are going great?
Right.
Probably not. But based on that logic, you should. So
right.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think it's interesting.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I want to get your input on something else. We had actually a coach here in Georgia sent me this, wanted to get our perspective on it. Little did they know they were going to get Sam Calhoun's perspective on it. So lucky for them. So basically what happened, this was a long email. I'm going to summarize it, but they were coaching a lifter at a meet. It wasn't their first meet. And the lifter lost their cell phone and was wanting to call their wife before they started squatting when they were warming up for squats. So they were kind of freaking out about that. And then when there were 3 lifters out, a referee came in the back and said, hey, just letting everybody know, a lot of the lifters are squatting high and they're getting red lights, and make sure you're getting, squatting the proper depth and everything. Well, the lifter basically just like got freaked out and, changed their stance up and tried to go extra deep, ended up bombing out. So this coach wanted to know what we would do in that situation. But I guess both as an athlete and as a coach, what we would have said, how we would have reacted, how we would have handled that situation. So I'll put you on the spot here, Sam. What would you have done? How would you have handled that, I guess?
okay, first with the cell phone. I mean, if it was simply just to call his wife, we can make that happen, and maybe he don't have the wife's number. We have Instagram, we have Facebook Messenger, we could get in contact with the wife somehow, some way, right? And then from there, we just gotta say, relax, we're gonna find it. It's around here somewhere. You're around honest people. Most likely no one took your cell phone, because I just feel like people don't need to steal cell phone these days. They're readily available. So I would just kind of like find a way to contact his wife, even if like he's not actively a part of that process. Me as a coach, find a way to contact his wife while he's still focused on his process. It was simply about just contacting the wife, and just reassure him that we will find the cell phone. It's around here. We got it. And as far as the referee, making the comment about depth, at that point in time, I'm going to, reinforce, like, yeah, you need to leave no doubt, because that's what we practice in training, So that should be even more of a cue for him. Like, bury this. This is your opener. You've hit this before in the gym. You know how this weight can move. Just execute the weight. This is why we're here. So take something negative as what the referee is saying and just kind of spin it a part of like the game plan, because it is.
Yeah.
So just kind of the main thing is just kind of have a soothing approach, just to calm the lifter down, because if you're calm, they will come down.
Yeah, I think that's huge. I think that's one thing that, with a lot of lifters in our team, when they help, coach lifters at meets and stuff like that, a lot of them get into lifter mode and they start getting kind of amped up. And that really is not always the best thing for, you want that, at least for me, like I like that calming presence around where it's like, okay, everything is going as planned because they're not freaking out. So everything must be going good. That relaxes me. And, I think, to add to what you said, I think, the lifters out there getting red lights, they just weren't prepared, apparently. Like, we are prepared. Like, know what you're doing. Like, we've practiced to the standards. Like, you're good to go. Like, that sucks for them, but that's kind of on them. So,
and if I was a lifter, I would be like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Like if this is a meet, right, that we're trying to win, and you just have a huge chunk of lifters get red lights on their opening squat, that's going to put you in a better position to win with less effort.
Yeah.
So just say, okay, now let's stick to our game plan, let's execute this squat, and we're one step ahead at that point.
Yep. Yeah. And I just think, going back to what you said, it's really, I think just doing everything you can to calm the lifter and help them be confident. And I think, especially if that they've been squatting to depth in training, then, if they've been squatting high this whole time in training and you kind of just let it go, well, that's probably on you as a coach, right?
Right.
But if you're doing your job and making sure that they're, squatting to depth and everything, then yeah, that's exactly what we want to hear. Like, great, let's roll.
Yeah. And she said he had an issue with depth, but even that, you just reassure him, like, this is what we've been practicing. This is what we've been practicing. This is why we've been practicing.
Right. Yeah. You don't want to find out for the first time at the meet. Like, you want to know what you want to know where you're at. So yeah, I agree. Cool. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit and kind of go off the rails. So one big part of our podcast is like 80s music and stuff like that. So I meant to start with this and I kind of forgot. So what are your feelings on 80s music? And you can be, I'm not going to be offended. You can say whatever you want. It's not going to hurt my feelings publicly.
I have no feelings. Like, it's hard for me. It's hard for me to pinpoint like 80s genre. 70s, 80s is all the same to me. I don't know. What's considered 80s? Janet Jackson 80s?
Yeah, Janet Jackson's 80s. Michael Jackson's 80s. Prince, all of it. Yeah, you see.
Okay.
All
right, so I'm digging it.
Okay. So if you were a panel of 3 referees and you had to give a white light or a red light for 80s music, what would the call be? Like 2-1?
It'd be 2-1.
2-1, white or red?
Yeah. 2-1 white.
All right.
2 whites, 1 red.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I don't discriminate.
All right. Well, you're welcome to come back for a future episode then.
Yeah.
So we also do a weekly powerlifting situation. And I'm making this one up on the spot, and I'm going to have you answer it. So the situation is a meet director of a meet that you're competing in is taking a poll of all of the lifters for the music to play. The caveat is they're going to bring in an actual band to play instead of actually having a DJ. So you have to pick one band to play the entire meet. Who would you pick?
A band?
A band.
First of all, I hate live music because it's just always so loud in a small space.
Yep.
I hate it. Oh God.
I told you we were going off the rails here.
Yes. I got to go with Maroon 5.
Maroon 5?
Because they're kind of like, they have different like tempos of their music.
Okay.
Yeah,
I like that. I like the argument. So I'm not real familiar with Maroon 5, but I like the argument of different tempos because you don't want to be, something that's like super heavy. And hard,
it's not gonna be metal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you got to have, there's different vibes for different attempts and different lifts.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
I think Maroon 5 is like poppy rock, soft rock type of like, new age rock. I think that's their genre.
All right. I like that. I like that. I like the argument. Like I said, I'm not real familiar with Maroon 5, but I give you A+ for the argument for it.
Yeah.
The last thing we do is our new lifter tip. We throw out a new one each week.
Oh, yeah.
So this week was, you've likely been eating clean leading into the competition. Immediately after weigh-ins is not the time to make up for it by eating a bunch of junk. Do you agree or disagree? And before you answer, I also put this up as a poll on Instagram, and about 80% of people said they agree. There was 20% that disagreed.
Wow.
So I obviously I agree with it because I wrote it, but I'm curious what your thoughts are.
I mean, why would you want to eat junk after weigh-ins? Okay, so 1 2-hour weigh-in, and if you've been cutting or even been conscious of your weight, at this point in time, you want to eat like food, right? And if you haven't been cutting and you could just eat whatever you want, why would you want to eat junk? You should be fairly satisfied at that point.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just, that doesn't even sound like appealing.
Yeah. I know a lot of people like after their meet, they'll go out and just eat garbage because they just, whatever. That's one thing. I mean, it's still not ideal, right? But that's at least not going to make you feel bad during the meet or affect your performance or anything. But I think it's all, a lot of people just look at it as soon as the weigh-in's over, I can eat whatever I want. And they don't think about the fact that you still need to fuel your body. Yeah. Yeah. Perform and fuel your performance with nutrition. So, I thought that, I'll be honest, I thought that was a pretty straightforward kind of a question. It was just like, well, yeah, no kidding. But apparently people disagree. And I'm not going to name names. You know who you are listening, but there were some pretty high level coaches that said disagree. Maybe they misread the question. Maybe they are trolling me. I don't know.
I mean, maybe they're in like the Sour Patch Crew like mindset.
Maybe it could be.
I don't know.
But
I'm not a very good meat day eater. I have very little appetite and I have to like force feed myself. So I'm not on the camp of like full like chicken and rice. I see people like with like full like lunches after weigh-ins. I can't do that. And I'm also not in the camp of like the Sour Patch Kids. So I'm like a bagel banana type of girl, like very simple.
Yeah. And I think different things work for different people, but and I didn't really specify what I meant by eating junk. I just, you can take that for whatever you want. So maybe that's what maybe Sour Patch Kids is what people are classifying as junk. So I guess, that's not, the worst thing you could eat, I guess, if that's what works for you. But anyway, whatever.
I mean, what did you have in mind when you said junk?
Well, in my mind, I'm thinking like McDonald's or like I see people sometimes will get like Chick-fil-A sandwiches or something like that, like, which even that is not terrible, but like, I've seen people get what's the IHOP. They'll go to IHOP and just get like a whole bunch of like sausage, pancakes, and syrup and just kind of mix it all together and eat it. And I'm just like, the pancakes okay, even sausage okay, but like you're like and that's not, I don't know, that's not even junk food, I guess technically, but all the syrup
Yeah,
adds to it.
that could get controversial.
Yeah, that's true. So I guess that's a good question. When you put it back on me, what did I mean by junk food? I'm not sure. Good point.
Because you kind of said Sour Patch Kids were okay.
I know I did, didn't I? Yeah, I think I would actually have to go back on that. I don't know that. So here's the thing. Let me elaborate as I'm thinking this through more, the intent was. So I'm not against Sour Patch. I'm against Sour Patch if that's what you eat after weigh-ins and that's the only thing. Like if people want to eat Sour Patch like as a little sugar boost, like right before an attempt or right before, as they're finishing up their warm-ups. Okay, I would consider that like a supplement to your diet on the day. Use supplement loosely, right? But if you're just eating like all kinds of carbs and sugar like post weigh-in, then that's not really helping you long-term throughout the day. So I don't know.
I got you.
You're like, all right, whatever, Josh.
You're making a lot of fans right now.
Yeah, I know, right? I just upset all three of our listeners. So let's circle back to you a little bit. I know you have a coaching business and things like that. Do you want to talk about that a little bit and kind of let people know where they can reach you? And I guess do you even have availability to take new clients or
yes,
kind of booked up? Or?
I mean, online clients, or you could accept a lot of those. So if anyone is interested in online coaching, you could contact me on Instagram or my website, samstrong500.com.
Cool.
Yeah.
And I will say too, like I really I watch other coaches and I watch other teams, and I do really like how your team seems like a very close-knit group. I don't know if they all like train together or live together, like live in the same area or not, but like at the Arnold, like I saw a bunch of the Sam Strong jackets, which it seems like you guys are everywhere.
It's because a chunk of them do train at the same gym, because I do in-person training. So that's the kind of the benefit of that. You get to create, a good training environment. You get to create a family, Yeah. So that's the benefit of that.
Yeah, I think that's super cool. I love the supportive environment like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think I enjoyed our conversation. Like, and I'll be honest, like we don't know each other that well. So this was I wasn't sure how this was going to go. If you were going to get tired of me after like the first 5 minutes, be like, hey, let's wrap this up, man.
I'm out.
Yeah, I'm out. But no, it was good. I think there's you gave a lot of perspective. I think that I hope people take to heart. I really do, because I think that's just, there's so much to get out of this sport if you do it for the right reasons. And I think a lot of people just get caught up in the wrong reasons.
Mm-hmm. So. It was so interesting about the post is like the comment section.
The comments.
And everyone had a different interpretation.
Yeah.
Everyone had a different interpretation. Because everyone's journey is a little different. We kind of go down the same path, but it's a little bit different. And we all have different ticks. So everyone interpreted that, slightly different. So it's very interesting to see everyone's perspective.
Yeah. And I think, I would strongly encourage people again to go check out that post and read all the comments, because there's a lot of really big name lifters that have commented and left their opinions that, I think kind of go along with what we're saying. And there's a lot of people that, you may have never heard of that are commenting like, hey, that's a good perspective. I'm, glad you posted that and stuff like that. So I don't know. I think as coaches, I think you have a huge opportunity as a really well-known lifter to post some of these things. And I've been watching, and I know other people have too. And I think, I guess I want to give you props for what you're putting out there, because I think that's really, really important. And a lot of people don't go there.
Yeah. Thank you.
So cool.
I just want everyone to be happy with themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's all.
Yep. Cool. Well, do you have anything else you want to add for the good of the cause, or you getting tired of talking to me?
No, I mean, next time we'll see each other, be Raw Nationals.
Yep.
In 12 weeks.
12 weeks. It's coming up.
Yeah. It's coming up fast.
Yeah. Oh, hey, let me ask you something controversial here.
Yeah.
Just for fun. I've been getting emails about how primetime is going to be selected. Let's see if we can ruffle feathers here. One, what are your thoughts on primetime? And two, how should it be selected? If you're making the decisions.
I was a part of the OG primetime crew with you in Atlanta, when primetime became a thing. Yeah. And I am a huge fan of it. But I'm a huge fan of the one platform, 2 flights, at most, because I'm a fan of spotlighting. So I'm a fan of the competition. And that's like the one point in time that the audience can see the competition, right? At that higher level. When you have multiple platforms, it kind of take away from that spotlight. And then you have to kind of vary your attention. And then when you have more than 2 flights, it becomes boring, right? So I'm a fan of the 2 flights, 1 platform, and I love primetime because you take all those lifters who competed in the daytime and their fans and their families, and then you bring them in at night and you have a packed house. And it's just so great for the sport, for everyone, for the people competing and for the people watching. It's just a great time.
Yeah. So that is the correct answer. No. Yeah, I was just getting a lot of questions about that, and I just thought it'd be fun to put you on the spot there. But yeah, I do. So that was the idea with with primetime initially was, a lot of people. So some of the feedback I got, I got a lot of the negative feedback early on because before it was a thing, because everybody's like, well, how's this going to work? Why are you spotlighting, the top lifters and not everybody and everything like that? But I don't even know that it was about spotlighting the top lifters so much. It was about spotlighting what the sport can be at that top level where the competition is so tight. And, with the one platform, you can have the announcers, basically filling in the gaps of what's going on behind the scenes. When you got multiple platforms and everything, like you can still do a good job of like informing people of, who's up and things like that. But to really go into detail, to really talk about the individuals, it gets really hard. And I just think that's a really cool opportunity we have to do that at that level. And that's kind of, I guess, what I was hoping came out of it. And I think for the most part it is where it kind of went. So. And
then as far as cutoff wise,
yeah, this is the question. This is the question I'm getting. I'm getting multiple emails a day. Like, how are they selecting it? And I'm curious what your thoughts are.
Well, if you go on the roster, right, and you see all the totals, you will see a natural like cluster.
Yep.
Right, and then you'll see the cluster and you'll see the drop, and and depending on how big that cluster is, you can kind of cut it off right there. So between 5 to 7 lifters, 10 at the most if there's only one weight class, competing. So you want to cut it off at at that drop point. So the battles can be head to head,
Yeah, and I think, that's one thing that, is being discussed right now is how we're going to do that. And I think we have a good plan in place, and I should be announced here pretty soon how it's going to be, but it's not a direct, this number of lifters in this weight class, this number of lifters in this weight class. Cause like in years past, like I think Orlando had, it was a 6-day meet, and with the old weight classes, basically the first day there was 4 weight classes in a day, but after that there's only 2 each day. So that was easy, 10 and 10. Mm-hmm. With the new weight classes, there's more, and then there's also, the meet's essentially 5 days. So there's going to be days where there's 5 weight classes, sometimes 4. So you can't do 10 and 10. So it's going to be much more clustered, which I actually like. You really have to look at those natural gaps in qualifying total. And, it also, it really like there's going to be people left out. So
yeah, I would like to see at least a top 5.
Yeah.
I would like to see at least a top 5. I mean, you fill out that podium, you know, you get a good little picture, you know, it looks like a full class. You know, I like to see at least 5 per weight class.
Yeah. And you know what's going to happen. It happens almost every year. There's going to be somebody that lifts in the morning session that ends up making the podium. Just because they just did a meet to qualify and they haven't put together their best total. I actually think that is a super awesome storyline. And I don't know, I'm not encouraging people to do that. Right. Like, I just think
that's hard.
it's hard.
Yeah.
And, but I just think it's super cool that, if somebody that lifts in the morning, their total holds up at the end. I don't know. I don't know why I think that. I just think it's cool.
I mean, because sometimes it could be a breakout star, right? Yeah. Nationals could be their second meet. Yeah. And if they're like a newer lifter, they could have like a 30 kilo PR, and become one of those primetime athletes, in the future. So, that's another thing that makes the sport great. You just never know.
Yeah, you never know. And if you aren't selected for the primetime, like, that can be another, motivating goal to put on your list, to try to make it the following year.
Yeah. I actually have a client, she's doing a meet this upcoming weekend, and one of her goals is to qualify for primetime. And I'm like, well, is that the goal? Because, you may have to go a little harder at this meet than you would like if that's the goal.
Yeah.
Now, if the goal is, to put your best foot forward and still come back in 11 weeks and do it all over again and better, that's 2 different executions.
Yep. And yeah, exactly. And obviously the harder you go, the more likely there is for a miss or things like that. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't necessarily mean it was a failure. But if that's the route you choose, like, you got to weigh that balance there. So yeah, this is fun. I've really enjoyed this conversation, but I do think we probably should wrap it up a little bit. You're kind of giving me that look like, all right, let's
I'm good. It's like my bedtime, but
yeah, it's mine too. So cool. Why don't you tell everybody one more time where they can find you on social media, website, all that stuff, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram mostly, sam.s.calhoun, and my website is samstrong500.com.
Awesome. Well, Sam, thanks again for joining us. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed the conversation. If you are listening out there on social media, don't forget to like and follow us. You can follow us on Instagram at PL Ballads Podcast, and shoot us an email if you have any questions, comments, concerns at plballadspodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, everybody. Later.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode of the Powerlifting and Power Ballads podcast, please remember to subscribe and share it with your friends.